Hey guys, welcome back to the Revive Stronger podcast. I'm your host, as always, Steve Hall, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by world-class classic physique competitor, Terrence Ruffin. For those of you who have been following his journey, you know this year was a little different. He made the tough call not to compete, and today we're going to dive into why that decision was made, how he's been adapting his training with an elbow injury, and what's in store for an improved comeback in 2025, including AM and PM sessions, his current split going from upper-lower to push-pull legs, why his legs have been growing faster than he kind of hoped, and why arms need to come up for him. We'll cover some new adjustments he's made to his training, including everything I just outlined, and his experience doing AM and PM sessions whilst also juggling 7 meals a day, trying to get in about 6,000 calories, and why he recently opted for his hair transplant and what his experience with that was. Terence will also share some powerful lessons he's picked up this year, especially around making decisions that align with his long-term vision and taking into account the perspectives of those closest to him. Guys, this podcast can only bring on such high caliber guests because you guys listen to it, and we need as many viewers and listeners as possible. And I think so many people will be interested to hear this episode. So please do share it, tag myself, tag Terence over on Instagram, share it on your stories, share it with anyone you think might enjoy it. Please leave us a review. You can give us a 5-star, quick and simple over on Spotify. That'd be really appreciated. Comment if you're over on YouTube, and please give us a like. It's really appreciated. And if you're on YouTube or Spotify, subscribe, of course, so you don't miss amazing episodes just like this. This episode is packed with insights for anyone interested in improving performance, managing setbacks, and learning from life's pivots. So without further ado, let's jump in. So Terence, as we were just saying off air, I can't believe it's been 5 years since we last spoke. That was 2019. We had an Ask the Athlete series, which I don't think it even came out as like a formal podcast, which I feel a bit bad about in some ways because I think it was a really great episode. And I know our audience is hyped to see you on the podcast and have you here. So I just want to say a massive thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, man, we're getting old. 5 years ago, oh my gosh. But yeah, it's good to be back, man. I'm excited for what's to come, with this interview here and then over the next year, 2025.
For sure. Yeah, I know this. That's part of the reason I wanted to bring you on, because I was intrigued, particularly with you not competing this year and deciding not to get your last kind of little battle with Chris Bumstead, I guess, in that sense. And I think diving into that a little bit more would be great, because you've mentioned 2025. So I guess you're planning to step on stage next year. What kind of things have you been doing with your time off to prepare for that?
Yeah, should be good. I don't know if you want me to dive into it right now or a little later, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw on your post, actually, you were just speaking about this elbow injury. You're lining something up after this. Is that still something that's kind of niggling you? And arms, I think, for you are something that you really wanted to try and prioritize too. So I don't know if it's been like, you prioritize an area and then you push a bit more there, and it's like, then the injury kind of sets you back a little bit. So that would be a great place to start.
Yeah. So I mean, I started to have pain in that area all the way back in what is it, 2024 now? So contest season of 2023, and then after the Olympics when it got really bad. And I spent a few months in Tampa trying to find guys that could help. I saw multiple people multiple times, and it just got to a point where I wasn't seeing any progress. And I'm not a particularly religious guy, but like I prayed about it. And because a lot of people ask me why I moved to Houston, and I hate telling people because it seems a little crazy, but I literally prayed about it, and like 10 seconds later on the television, Houston was on big letters on the screen. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, if I wanted the sign, it's pretty apparent right there. So yeah, I came out to Houston. I didn't get a place right away. I kind of got some Airbnbs. I knew Hunter Labrada out here, so I kind of met up with him. And after I, spent a couple months here, I was like, yeah, this was the right move. So I got a place. and settle down, and found the right person to help me with my issues. It's still not 100%, but I found a few movements that work. I can train pretty much like I want to now. And yeah, still not 100%, but good enough to get by. And yeah, the next thing I have is stem cell therapy, who I also, was fortunate enough to find because I moved out here. I'm supposed to be doing that in 2 weeks' time.
That's exciting. Yeah, I've heard of people doing stem cell therapy. I haven't heard too much about like success rates or I have no idea of the science and all of that, but it does sound exciting for sure. It's pretty expensive from what I gather, I think.
Yeah, it apparently varies a lot. I'm going down to Columbia, so the prices are a little bit better. But from the guys I've talked to, it's sad because like a lot of bodybuilders, I don't think they're trying. I don't know if they're trying to hide it or not, but a lot of people don't really talk about things like this very much. But I don't think they keep it a secret. I just think it's just kind of like But Alex Cabanero, he's done it. He told me it was great. Obviously, Chris got it done. He told me the same thing. Amazing results. Those are the only two younger guys I know. The older guys, like Dave Palumbo, Dexter Jackson, Dennis James, they've all done it, but they all say they're like, well, I'm older, so I still kind of feel beat up, but I feel a little better, you know.
That's
So
good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice again when it's like a new thing. I think it runs back to you talking about praying and being like, I'm not religious, but this is how much bodybuilding and doing this sport means to me that I'm going to try some things and I'm going to move to a completely different location to like prioritize this as much as possible. And then I think it's similar to, I don't know, there could be some little thing that someone has found beneficial. And as a bodybuilder, we're always, and as competitive as you are, I wouldn't say I'm as like the same degree as you by any means, but I try and do everything in my means to get better results. So I'll try anything so long as there's not like obvious downsides for it.
Yes, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
kind of one of those, right? So I totally understand that. With the elbow, did you ever try like I guess you probably did things like blood flow restriction training, so occluding that muscle and things like this?
The biggest thing I've tried was just the BPC and TB 500 combo, injectable and oral. I didn't feel any difference from injectable. I still do the oral because it's easier. I don't have to think about it too much. But and I've talked with Dr. Dean. I think he works with one of the coaches in the UK quite a bit. And one thing I like to do is just definitely try to rely on people smarter than me to like research a lot of things. And based on what he told me, is like there's not much of a difference between the injectable and the oral versions of BPC in particular. I I don't think people are really sure on the TB 500 quite yet, but I was like, okay. So if anything, it's just helping my gut out, if nothing else. But not a ton of blood flow restriction training. I haven't done much of that in a couple years. Me and Joe used to do it in the early years of me training with him. I think back in like 2019-ish time frame, and we would do it for my arms, but more so to just try to grow them a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a great way to use very light loads and just get well the evidence points to growing them pretty significantly. So whenever I have like niggles or injuries, which touch wood is very very rare, but if a client does it, happens, maybe uh, we throw the cuffs on or something and occlude the muscle and typically it recovers. But I'm guessing for you this is something you've dealt with for a while. Do you think it was just like an overuse or was there like something that instigated it?
I think it's a mix of both. I think it definitely overused. But I always pop my joints. I like pop it like this, and literally that's when it happened. I couldn't pop it right. I kept doing it over and over again, and it popped, and then it like that's when I immediately felt the pain. So it was, I think that, obviously brought on by maybe overuse, but then I guess exacerbated by like whatever popping does to joints. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking. I click my knuckles a lot, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm just popping out air, but maybe it's a little different. Like a finger joint to an elbow joint, popping that feels like a bit more of a fragile joint, or somewhere I wouldn't want to be
Yeah,
popping too often. So I think inevitably, it's like you said with like Phil Heath and what have you. When you've been training for an extended period of time hard, there's inevitably wear and tear that just you can have all the fatigue management strategies you want, but the hard stuff is what grows us. So, like
I agree.
you got
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
pushing to some extent.
I definitely
Uh,
think so. I would definitely agree with that. I mean, like in terms of pushing the limits of like any sport or any endeavor, you're gonna reach those points, you know. Like if you're doing something to be healthy, like the average everyday gym goer, they shouldn't have any issues like this. But like if you're the top of your field, like I said, in anything, it's gonna be points where you're pushing your body pretty hard.
sure. Something else I saw was you're the heaviest you've been in 3 years. Is that right? And you've been like
Yeah,
17 pounds under your weight cap. So I guess that's partly why you're like, hey, I'll take
yeah.
a bit of time here to see if I can take some pounds off that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mixture of feelings, man. Honestly, like I'm definitely excited because yeah, like I said, this is the heaviest I've been in a long time. I got up to around this weight, like I said, 3 years ago. But yeah, a little nervous, like, oh man, like, did I put on enough muscle? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're never quite sure. And I felt that way the last time I took time off. I took off the 20 pretty much the whole 2019 season. I skipped that Olympia, but I competed at the very end of that year. And I felt the same, I was like, oh, I don't know how was this a good idea? Did I put on enough size? This and that. But you just keep going and you see what happens, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super relatable. I even had it this year going into it. You're slowly unwrapping the present in some way where you're stripping back the layers. You're like, have I improved? Have I improved? You're self doubting. And it's not until you start seeing maybe similar body weights to where you've been before. And then you compare photos under similar conditions. You're like, oh, okay. So this has really come up or what have you. Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't happen until you get stage shots. And then you're like, oh, okay, like I'm happy they look better.
Yeah. Yeah. I have gotten a lot of compliments from people saying I look huge. Even
Nice.
Mike was training with Joe the other day, and Joe gave me a call. He's like, "Yeah, Mike said you looked huge, and are you switching to 212?" I was like, he was like, "No, he's not switching." But you never know, man, because every dude in the gym, they're always nice. It's like, bro, you look big, but you never know, like if they actually like if it's like just them saying something nice is like a greeting, or is it like, holy crap, you're actually a lot bigger than the last time I saw you, type deal,
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's nice to get those. And from actually, I had Joe on a while ago talking about you specifically because obviously he's coached you for a while, and
mm,
I think I remember him saying you're kind of like a quote unquote like hard gainer compared to other guys at your level, where
yeah.
it's just more challenging for you to accrue tissue than others. So, like, would 212 even be tenable for you? Could you get to that size without, I don't know, really doing some dodgy stuff? I don't know.
Personally, I don't think there's anything I could like literally anything I could do to get to that point, I won't get too much into things, but I had a buddy, he was training with I don't want to say the name of the coach because that's messed up too, but he was training with the coach pushing stuff very, very like I've seen levels of high. Like I've never it's the cycles people see online that I personally thought weren't true. He had him on that and he wasn't growing from it, but then he cut everything back, got his body healthy, and he grew better from it. Um, your body, in my opinion, your body grows best like in a pretty healthy state. There's some outliers out there, obviously, that have grown and we know it, but it doesn't last very long in terms of health wise of them maintaining that level. But for the majority of us, if you push things too hard, you're not gonna grow as well, in my opinion. And he cut things back. He started training with Hunter, and he's growing pretty well now. Um, Personally, I feel the same same way. Like even to the point of like the amount of food I'm eating, man. It's like I was talking with Brett. I saw Brett said for him to go to the open, he was eating 6,000 calories. And I was like, bro, I'm eating 6,000 calories, and I right now, and I'm not even at the top of 212. And I like strength wise too, man. Strength wise, I'm on par with like Hunter on a lot of, not on every exercise, but on quite a bit, like arms, chest, back, same weights, if not more on certain exercises. I was training with Nick. I've only trained chest with Nick. And albeit Nick's tempo would make things a little bit harder for me to like match, but in terms of strength is very close, you know. So like these guys, they're not much stronger than me. I'm eating the same if not more than some of the open guys. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing 212 or open. I'm not gonna be open to 8, 9,000 calories and trying to do that, you know.
Yeah, it's that individual difference that I think a lot of people don't understand, even in the natural side, but in the enhanced side, like you said, like people respond differently to different amounts of drugs and whether more favorably. And then health is a concern, and a lot of people hit that health wall sooner than others, and they have to pull back or what have you. And it makes complete sense. I would agree with you. Not that I know anything about this, but if a body isn't healthy, I don't think you could just put up the dose, up the dose, up the dose, and it's going to rectify things. I think we've seen that maybe with some competitors this year where they've hit problems in that regard and they've had to pull things back, get healthy again to build back up. And so, respect to you for kind of acknowledging that, staying healthy. And I think that also sings true to something else you mentioned was you always reach out to people, like you're not afraid to reach out to people more intelligent than you. Like you haven't got an ego based around that. You know, you're a competitor. You want people in your corner that's going to make you the best competitor possible. So I've got a lot of time for that. Do you see that with other competitors? Is there a lot of them good at dropping the ego, or do some people will struggle with
It
that?
de- it depends. I think it varies across the board. I would say some of the best are the one. I actually would agree that some of the best are the ones that drop the ego. Like Chris, Chris, I know he's reached out to a lot of people. I remember years and years ago, Joe said he purchased his app, and I was like, oh, cool. So like Chris is by far like genetics meets like a very intelligent human being, like those two things with Chris. Same with Urs. I mean, Urs, I think he's traveling a little bit less now, but when he first reached that, I think third place mark, he traveled and trained with everyone. He trained with me and Joe, Chris, a ton of other open guys to kind of learn from him. I think, yeah, I definitely think a lot of the guys in the top spots, they are very intelligent. Even Mike, I think he said someone told me, Niall, I'm doing an interview with him tomorrow. Niall told me he's doing an upper lower split, and that's how he gained that 12 pounds over this last season. So yeah, I think some of the guys that aren't doing as well, they are definitely more ego driven. But oops, some of the top guys definitely they're definitely very open, you know.
That's cool. I think it's a great lesson for a lot of people, myself included. This is the first year in 10 years I've had a coach in my corner. I'm just like, man, it's actually so nice to have someone to not just learn from, but also switch off the kind of coaching element because you end up overthinking
Yeah.
things. You maybe do things you shouldn't be doing. You become your own worst enemy in that regard.
Dude, that's why I am now with training. Like I spent, I think what 2018 to 5 years training with Joe, and like even though I had a say in the exercise selection, we kind of got to a point where like that was a part of the program. But now with just doing my own thing, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm always switching stuff, and I'm like, oh, but maybe I'm switching too quick, or maybe I should try this out, or how's this gonna go? Do this. It's a mess. It's really frustrating. I'm frustrating my own self, and especially with me staying in touch with like I guess the what's the word they use, evidence-based community, and then all these studies that come out, and I got to really tell myself like it's just one study. Don't fucking change your program, bro. You know?
Brilliant. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's super relatable. I think there'll be so many listeners here who maybe they don't have a coach and then they're in the same boat as you. It's a lot of the people I coach, not surprising, they're
Yeah.
listeners, they're coaches themselves. They keep up to date with the evidence. They see a new study on it. It could be anything. Like there's been loads recently, right? Especially in like the length and partial stuff. You've probably seen all of that. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
should I skip the short position but full ROM? This feels right. And like what is the kind of, these aren't Olympians that they're studying, right? So it's like you got to take it with a grain of salt, at least for someone of your size.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's another thing I kind of try to keep in mind as well, you know. So But yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely difficult. Yeah.
Have you tried, out of interest, you kind of nod into the length and partial stuff. Have you tried any kind of skipping that short position, or were you doing it previously already, like tried it before?
Oh no, I didn't really do too much of that, to be honest with you. When I talked to Joe about a lot of this stuff, because I mean he's definitely the smartest, one of the smartest people I know. And the thing that sets him apart from a lot of guys is that he trains a lot of people. So he's been able to, see what works and what doesn't in real time, and and to have a little bit of nuance in conversation. And he he just was like, I think the main reason he kind of stayed away from it was like standardization of your sets from, and I'm like, okay, I get that. That kind of does make it a little bit harder to kind of standardize your sets. And there was probably other reasons, but that was the main one that kind of I held on to in particular. But no, I did not. I didn't do a ton of length and partials. I did try to make sure just I spent a little bit more time in that area. I think Joe was really a big proponent to that, but not just cutting off a certain range of motion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. And yeah, I've had John I don't know if you ended up listening to it, but I had him on and we talked about it previously as well. And I agree, he's like super knowledgeable person. He's one of those people where like he keeps adrift with the evidence, but also coaches a lot of people, so has that wealth of experience and wisdom that you can apply to people. So I think it's someone that's very useful to have in your corner. Something else I wanted to ask you about this off season. It's something I tried a number of years ago now. I did it for like 3 years or something. Was splitting up my sessions into like morning and evening sessions, so AM and PM sessions. And so I'd love to kind of dig into how long you've been running that, how that's gone, what the reason for it was. That'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah, yeah, man. So it's pretty commonplace. It's pretty interesting actually. It's pretty commonplace for like when I take time off from the gym, when I get back, I'll do like an upper lower split just because I've always done a push pull legs variation, push pull legs rest, 2 days on again, depending on what we feel like working on. It could be an upper day and an arm day, or a push, or a pull day, whatever it may be, and then another rest day. But when I take time off from the gym, I can't do that. I'm just too sore. I can't recover from it. So I got my hair transplant, and that put me out the gym for about 2.5, 3 weeks. And so when I came back, I started doing the upper lower splits. And around that time, it's funny, that's when the upper lower splits were starting to gain some popularity online again. So I was like, oh, interesting. So while on top of that, man, I was running it and I got put like, okay, let me context here. Before the hair transplant, I was around 200 pounds. After the time off, I was 187. And then within 3.5 weeks, I was up to 212 pounds. So not only did I gain the weight back, I gained an extra 12 pounds. And I was like, holy crap, this is interesting, right? So I mean that weight gain sucked. I was in a lot of pain. I could barely move. It was a lot, but it was super interesting. So um I don't know, just in my head again with, wanting to change your splits a bit. I wanted to add a bit more volume to my arms, but it got to a point I reached out to Joe. I was like, what do you think about this split? And he said, there's a lot to do in a single session. You should probably split it. And if you can split it, split the arm, the arm movements into the AM, chest and back PM, to kind of prioritize a little bit better. And it's been going pretty well. I did switch back to push pull legs variation for a while, just because I was thinking, I'm like, well, my legs were growing a little bit too quick, my quads in particular. And with classic, with the weight restrictions, you need to be very mindful of where you add your muscle. Like if I put on my all the muscle I can put on in my quads, then my arms are gonna look even worse, right? So gotta be very mindful. So I switched it up, even though I've already switched it back after thinking about it. But because I wanted less leg days, and my reasoning was that, and then on top of that, just more volume for your upper body. And the weird thing is my weight didn't move once I switched it, to that split, which it's really weird. I'm recovering fine. My numbers are increasing, but my weight has been pretty stagnant. I don't know what that means. It could mean a lot of different things. Who knows? But uh, decided to go back to upper lower to see if anything changes. So I'm just trying things out to see how it goes. Um, but yeah, I've been loving the 2 a days. I've been loving the upper lower type split. The way I've kind of managed my volume now is leg my first leg day or lower day is quad and hams, and the second lower day is gonna be just glutes and hams. So that I don't know why I didn't think of that in the beginning, but but yeah, so that's the thought process there. Um, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good so far.
Nice. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense with the upper lower split. Was that 4 times a week or was that 6 times a
Or
week? Four. Okay.
that was another reason, man. Like, I don't know what your thoughts on this is, but like my thoughts was like, well, most people running, like even with Paul, I know Paul's a big proponent to it too. So like most of the guys I know running like an upper lower split, they're only doing it 4 times a week. So I'm like, how is that really different than like that five day split I was doing? You're still hitting all those muscle groups twice a week, if you split up, whatever way you needed to. So that was another reason why I kind of switched to that. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I always look at least at the moment with what we know about frequency, it seems to be a way to divvy up your volume, and however that frequency works for you to get the best quality volume in through the week seems to be most important. So if you're not increasing your ability to get in high quality volume versus one versus the other, it's kind of like, hey, you can experiment, see what you like, but that makes a lot of sense that with training your quads twice a week, they're kind of getting a little bit too much love. So it
Dude,
makes sense
yeah.
scaling that back.
It's crazy, man. Like I love to talk about stuff like this because it's really interesting just how different people's bodies are, like I've known like obviously like I mean you probably know a lot about history too of bodybuilding. Phil never really trained his arms very often. And I mean some of the best arms in bodybuilding, I remember Tom Platz's best placing at his Olympias the year he didn't train his quads. He balanced his physique, and even with myself, like I don't have many body, obviously, like in terms of like the average person, I'm obviously above average, genetics wise, but in terms of like, the best of the best in the sport, I would say like the only body part that grows like that is my quads. And like, I mean, dude, I do like 2, 3 sets and that's enough to grow and maintain them. Which is, you know, based on a lot of research, that wouldn't be a thing. That wouldn't be possible. So it's interesting, man. Even, dude, you should bring Michaela Acock on here, dude. I spoke with her too because I saw her transformation. If anyone watching hasn't seen her leg transformation, it is by far the best transformation of a pro I've ever seen. And I say that because like you see a lot of people, they'll transform from like beginning of their lifting journey to the end. You see drastic changes, but you never see someone make great leaps and bounds when they're already been doing it, several years and
Mm.
they're already pro. Outside of like maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's the best one I've ever seen. And what she did was, you should bring her on. I'll keep it brief, but she only trained legs for, I think, I don't know, maybe a year. She did 3 leg days a week, no upper body training. But if you look at her
Oh wow.
progress, yeah, no, I was like, I don't understand how you didn't lose any size in your upper body during that time frame. And then also grew your legs. It's incredible how different bodies can like grow and change and whatnot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. Like hearing Phil not train his arms, it kind of makes sense to me given like how gifted he was and how good his arms were. And they
Yeah.
obviously get hit really well through, and that's part of the reason you split your AM and PM, right? Was like, hey, by the time I come to my arm work at the end, I'm so fatigued I can't give them the love they deserve. So let's put them at a time that I can be a bit more recovered and give them more focus. So that makes tons of sense to me. And yeah, then I'll have to see if I can get her on and talk about that a little bit because that is, that's to not train your upper body at all, even like mentally, that would be tough. But
And I
legs
mean,
for
like
me
she
is an
coaches
area.
herself too. Like not many guys or people at her level do their own training, diet, all of it. So very,
Yeah.
very takes, like you said, it takes a very strong person mentally to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, it's one thing if a coach you respect is like, no, this is what you're doing, and you're like, right, cool. But it's another thing to like listen to yourself with your own demons of like, hey, your upper body's going to shrink, and see
Yeah.
that through. But I think it's great that you're taking some time to like experiment after having been coached for so long, and just experiment on yourself and see kind of, hey, is there something we're missing here? Is there not? And maybe you'll realize, hey, actually, I much prefer being coached, and you go back and what have you. But kind of, there's nothing lost by kind of experimenting and trying things out a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I like during this time, I've trained with like the was it Renaissance periodization crew, Jared and Mike. You know, those guys are very helpful when I was really in the thick of like the elbow stuff. Jared helped me out with the program. I'm not the hugest fan. Like I felt really beat up with the just the amount of extreme stretching they do in a lot of exercises. But no, I really appreciate it. And I did was able to learn some things from those guys as well. Same with I reached out to the muscle doc. He helped me out with some mobility, not mobility work, but some exercises to do before I train, which takes up a lot of time, but they were definitely helpful, definitely very helpful, man. So um, even with the training, just the direct training aspect of things, like trying out my own stuff was very interesting. Even if it like, to be quite honest, a lot of it was like, I don't really like this. And going back to what Joe taught me, but it's good to just try it out and see, like, oh yeah, that's probably why he said don't do this. Oh, that's probably why he didn't put this in the program or something like that, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, very cool that you trained with the RP guys because they obviously have their kind of like, I don't like calling it a style, but it is like, hey, lengthened ranges, control, like a bit slower tempos than some bodybuilders train with. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that if you don't tend to train that way, it can get you very sore, those lengthened ranges and everything. So it makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense. And with the AM and PM, and with you said 6,000 calories, I believe you said you're on. How do
pretty
you,
close.
yeah,
Yeah.
how do you manage that? I think you said you have 7 meals. I think I saw somewhere.
It's a pain in the ass, dude, to be quite honest with you. Like it really is. Um, yeah, I do. So I kind of, depending on how my day is going, like today, I'm doing an extra shake today than I normally would. But yeah, you know, if I have anything planned for the day, it's a pain in the butt. You know, if it's a day where I don't have to do anything but go to the gym and eat, it's okay. Even though and it's gotten a lot easier, to be quite honest with you. Like the first 2 weeks of me doing that, I wouldn't I just wanted to get down the timing. Like I wasn't finishing that seventh meal whatsoever. I would just eat as much as I could. I wouldn't try to force it or anything. I'm like, okay. And then it slowly became a bit more. And about 2 weeks in, my appetite was pretty much on point with when I needed to eat. And that was something really cool to find out for me. And I would suggest anyone to try that. If you're struggling eating or getting food in, just get the timing down first, you know. If you don't finish the meal, that's okay. It'll get better each and every day, hopefully. But if you start to miss that meal time, and that's when your appetite gets the most messed up, and you don't get that food in.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. Additionally, you get access to our exclusive Revive Stronger member site, where you'll be able to watch over hundreds of hours worth of educational content. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
Yeah, it's not as easy when you're on that much food. If you're on like 2,000, 3,000 calories. If you miss a meal, hey, maybe combine it with one of the later meals.
Yeah,
Not such
no,
a
it's
big
no
deal.
combining, bro.
No, I was going to say, you can't do that. It makes me think of, because I've just been doing some peak weeks, and during that process, Cliff has me coming up to much more water than I'm used to, like 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons. And when I was first, like the first time doing that in the first days, I was like, man, this is like, I need to be sat here drinking all the time with a toilet there because I'm just like constant. But by the end
Yeah,
of that process, it becomes a little bit more manageable. But still, it's a bit like a full-time job, let alone it being food, which is
yeah,
even more of something that gets challenging.
yeah. I've never done. I've done 6 meals. I've done five. My personal favorite is five. I like five, if even if they're a little bit bigger. But yeah, seven is a lot. And my coach is seeing the main reason he's like, well, since you're training two times a day, I want you to eat this much because normally I do six. So I was like, okay, well, all right, we'll do it.
Does that mean between your morning and evening workout, how many meals do you get in between that? Is it one or two, or?
I tried a couple different ways to see what worked for me, just life wise. And the best so far has been 2 meals, then train, 2 meals, then train, and then the rest, the next three. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What, out of interest, what your go-to things to allow that amount of food to get in you? Like the shake you've got there, I guess, is like a carb and protein mostly.
Yeah, yeah. On on the good days, so yeah, I know most people like, oh, I eat my meals, completely the same every day. I personally, I haven't been able to do that just with life. On the perfect days, it would be cream of rice and protein with peanut butter. You mix that, then rice, and I'll do turkey because I'm just sick of chicken. I don't think I've eaten chicken in the past maybe year or two. But then I'll go train. Then I'll come back. I'll eat chicken and rice, not chicken, but turkey and rice again. Then I'll have another protein and cream of rice. Go train again, then protein, and I'll do 2 bagels. And then the last 2 meals will be rice and beef or rice and bison, some type of red meat. And then I'll add some avocado or something.
Do you,
Yeah.
obviously you mentioned avocado, but there was no other mention of like other fruit and
Yeah.
veg. Are they part of this, or?
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, the first week or at the first maybe 2 weeks, I wasn't doing a ton of veggies and stuff, but I noticed my digestion started to go to crap. So I started to add back in fruit. So I'll either do like a banana or blueberries with the cream of rice, or just whatever vegetables I feel like. Sometimes I'll do kimchi, sometimes I'll do mixed vegetables, sometimes I'll do green beans. I try to vary it as much as I can with that type of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just asking because I know obviously food volume and fiber, it can add up. But when you're doing the fiber, sorry, the carbohydrate sources you're mentioning, the amount of
Rice,
fiber
yeah,
that's with those is bit like minimal to nothing. So you can
yeah.
afford to have some veggies and fruits in there, which is, like you said, you need some for digestive health.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, I was worried about them and the food volume with the veggies, but it hasn't really been a problem as of late. Yeah.
Nice. How's your, because it sounds like you're relatively flexible with your nutrition. Do you got like meals out? Do these occur? Or is it like cheat meals? Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, I'll do meals out if someone wants to. Cheat meals, I will just because I'm just tired of eating rice and beef, but like I don't have like an urge, like to actually eat the food. It's just like, oh, let me just eat something where I don't have to eat like rice and beef or rice and turkey, or cream of rice. So that's the biggest. If I was eating like 6 meals, then probably wouldn't have much cheat meals in the off season at a certain point, unless I'm going out with a friend or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It gets to a point where it's just like the monotony of doing that. It's just nice to switch it up. It's not like you're hungry and craving it from
Yeah,
any other reason.
no cravings. Yeah, because people ask me, "What do you want to eat?" I was like, "I literally don't care. I
Yeah,
like
I
no
don't want to
craving."
eat.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So another question, actually, you kind of, I guess, in a sense, you brought it up, was the hair transplant.
Mhm.
I think you've had a ton of questions about this. I don't know if there's like a number one question, but I'd love to hear like what led you to go down that path and how you've kind of liked having it done now. I think you're probably fully recovered at this point, or
No.
mostly there.
Well, training wise, but like the hair is still a lot more. I just started, I think month 4. It takes 6 months to a year to see the full results.
Okay.
It's slow. So yeah. So I think with my hair type, it takes a little bit longer. With straighter hair, I think it's a little bit quicker. But uh, the main reason, honestly, if anyone saw the Olympia and how they hided people this year, you would. I thought hair played a part, and I think, especially with me being right on the edge, I think that it definitely plays a part. Like I was wondering because I've been hided different twice out of the, I don't know, 15, 20 shows I've done as a pro. And I thought about the most recent time and I'm like, oh, my hair was a lot shorter that year than it was in previous years. And I'm like, okay, that's a big, for me, especially being shorter, 5 pounds is a big difference, 182 to 187. And so that was a big reason as well. I was like, okay, let me try to grow my hair out and get this to go while I'm not competing this year, so that I, put myself in the best possible, place to win. Um, I would say there's just the social thing too. I was like, I don't want to be bald, but when you do the surgery, they cut it all down. I was like, oh, this doesn't look too bad at all. I kind of like it. So when if it ever does get to that point again where it all falls out, I'll be fine. But right now, dude, yeah, with me being right on the edge of my height limit, I think it's important. Um, I think that's why you see these guys with these long hairstyles. They grow their hair out
That's
pretty far.
super interesting. I never would have thought about that. That's
Yeah,
wild.
I was actually really surprised they posted so much content from the weigh-ins because they normally don't. You normally don't see anything from them actually doing the height. You might see them at the weigh-ins, but you never really see them like actually hiding people. And I was like, oh wow. And yeah, they have, yeah. If you go back and look, I definitely think the height played a part. Um, but yeah, I mean the process, a lot of times people ask me like how painful was it? The actual procedure wasn't painful, but the numbing stuff was probably the most painful experience I've ever had.
Oh,
Like it was like yeah, the numbing, that's the same thing I hear from most people. It's almost because they have to inject the stuff in your head, and it's like they inject it and then they just as quickly as possible just jam it in there. And I'm like, oh my God, you know. Uh, it's like if you've ever had any dental work done and they inject the stuff.
I was just
Imagine if
thinking
they
that.
try, yeah. Imagine them putting it in as quickly as possible. And that's probably what it would feel like. Because it always, like when I get it done, it always hurts a little bit when they're putting this stuff in your mouth, but they're a little bit more gentle with you. So yeah, that was terrible. The process takes a while. I think mine took like maybe 7 hours. It can take all day. But like I think I fell asleep at certain points. Because yeah, you don't feel anything once they put that stuff in. Um, no training for 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what your surgeon says. The worst part is it just looks awful for a very long time, and you're like either stuck looking awful, or if you can wear a hat, you can only wear it for like 30 minutes at a time, and it's just a pain in the butt, to be honest with you, for a very long time. So I'm just feeling comfortable enough now not to wear a hat. In the past, maybe since the Olympia. And I'm not, and even then, dude, you're not supposed to get a haircut. What I ended up doing, like, cause not to look terrible when I was doing like the commentary, I still cut and evened up the top, but I couldn't do any lineups where they did my what do you call it? Where they implanted stuff. So like at least with my hair type, they have like this spray. So they would spray in the thin
Right.
areas and keep it even. So that's how I faked a good hairline. But dude, even then, dude, that shit lasts like a day and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
It was tough, dude. It was good enough to pass, and but yeah, yeah. But that's probably the hardest part is just your hair looks bad for a long time before it looks good, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting about the height thing. I've actually heard, just to touch on that briefly, of people doing like inversion tables. So they'll
Yeah.
like for hours be hung upside down to make sure they hit a certain height, which is obviously gravity shrinks you through the day. So I guess they get a couple of centimeters. I don't know how much you get from that.
I mean, if you're right on the edge, like I'm like right at 5'5", I'm guessing. Because I've measured like couple centimeters under at like that one of those two shows I've measured under. The tallest I've been, I guess, is 5'5" and 1/4. So I'm like right there. So even those centimeters matter, like if you're right on that edge there. Now if you're like, I think what's the height for me is like 5'5" to 5'7". So if you're like 5'6", you probably you don't have to worry about it. It's nothing you can do. So yeah, yeah. I think Breon's like an inch taller than me or something. So it just is what it is for him, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, and then the whole process and everything. It really reminds me actually of like getting a tattoo, but a bit more invasive in terms of tattoos. Like if you get a half sleeve, not even a half sleeve, if you get like a reasonably sized tattoo, it's going to take a day to get that done. It sounds less painful actually in the whole. Like it's probably like acute pain, maybe more. Have you got tattoos?
Yeah, I have
So
three.
you kind of know.
I would say if the hair transplant, like the first 3 minutes is like a 10, a 9 or a 10 in the pain, and maybe like a tattoo is like a 7, like throughout, maybe a 6 throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. And then the recovery process, obviously, with tattoos, that can be relatively quick. Again, it depends on placement, all of that. But yeah, that's the thing that's always put me off a hair transplant a little bit is the time knowing I'm going to not be able to train for 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, I got. But I thought something you said that's pertinent and it's something I need to try myself is obviously you shaved it off and you're like, oh, I could actually deal with this. Obviously, you need the height for classic. But for like myself, I think I would just shave it off and see how I deal with that initially and then go down the process of like if that wasn't something I was happy with, consider it a bit more seriously.
And you do, but before I move on, like you do need to take that time off because I was talking to Michael. Michael got it done too. He didn't listen and he just went and trained right away and it didn't take. He's like, I gotta go do it again. And I said, dude, I don't know if
Oh,
I can do that a second time, man. Like it was a little traumatic. Like I said, the pain was only at the beginning, but just the feeling of them like digging in, you could still feel it, like the pressure and whatnot, and the sounds and the blood. You could see the blood. Like it's not all blood, but and after the numbing, they inject the fluid into your scalp, so they're not hitting your skull, I guess. But like seeing all that was a lot, you know. I wouldn't want to do it a second time. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I guess. And that's a possibility for people, isn't it? If you get it done and then you continue to recede, there could be a like naked patch of like your transplant hair and then your old hair and then like
Very true.
bits
Yeah,
that have
yeah.
fallen out. So yeah, it's not necessarily like a one and done thing, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Not at this stage, at least.
No, no, yeah, that's another thing. People like, oh, if you're still, using anabolics, why get a hair transplant? And I'm like, well, one, I've seen enough guys do it where it seems to be okay. Like Chris, I went to the same people Chris and Ian went to, and their hair seems to be doing fine. And the thought process is too, those hairs that are still there, like they're a little bit more resistant. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Alongside that, would you have to do any of the like medoxinil or finasteride supplements?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm doing all of that topical. Not taking anything orally, but topical treatments for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that is that easy enough actually doing the topical stuff, or is it a pain?
No, that's pretty easy for me.
Easy.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. And I don't. So they have two different options. They have like the liquid, and then they have like a foam. Personally, for my hair, I don't like the foam. I don't feel like it reaches where it needs to. So I just use the dropper, and I'll just do the fronts. I'll do here, and I'll do my scalp, and I'll just rub it in. Before, like in the morning, like when I'm getting ready for my day, and before bed. Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
bring it back to classic and bodybuilding,
Yeah.
there's a quite personal interest of the hair transplant because it's something
Oh
I'm
yeah.
thinking about. I appreciate your time on that. But when does like prep kick in for you then? Like, are you doing any dieting before the end of this year, or does it kick in like towards mid next?
Man, so I am 100%, so dieting wise, so this also sucks. So to do when I do the stem cells, they also want me to take another 2 weeks off, which is
Damn.
yeah, I didn't think I was gonna have to take any time off for that. I was like, oh, you just do it and I'm good. But he's like, no, you need to take. I'm like, God damn it, bro. Like I really don't, but I know long term is probably the better thing to do. But after those 2 weeks, I'll probably like kind of get back into the swing of things. I go the surgery's on the 21st of November. So what is that'll be hopefully I can start prep maybe at the end of December. Um the worst time of the year during the holidays, great. But I'm definitely doing the Pittsburgh, which is in May. Um Two shows that I would like to do that I don't know if I could be ready for would be the Arnold. The Arnold would be pushing it really, really, especially after taking even though 2 weeks isn't very long, it's still time off. Um, I think maybe since I've won it twice, maybe I could reach out to them and say, yo, if I'm ready, I'll do it, but can you give me some time before you make the announcement? Um, but if so, that's one show I would like to do. The other show I would like to do is the Detroit, just because the stage is beautiful, and they're paying very well as well. I've talked with Michael about this. Um, I haven't talked to a lot of other pros, but I personally believe like if you're like in the top 10, maybe even maybe not top 10, but top 10, maybe I don't think you should be doing the shows that pay very little. I mean, I know everyone wants an easy qualification and things like that, but I think it hurts the value of the athletes. You know what I mean? Like if I was to go do a show that paid like $2,500, then the promoters are like, oh, well, we can get Ruff for, 2,500. Why would I ever increase the prize money? And I think it's important for the top guys to do those big shows like Dubai, Arnold, whatnot, because it shows them like, okay, this is how you get better athletes in your show. It's kind of like an unspoken deal that the athletes and
Sure.
promoters are. So yeah, so that's me one thing I like to talk about with Michael and other guys, but definitely I think Dubai is paying pretty well, so I'll probably do that if I'm ready. That's at the end of March. So again, it's kind of pushing things after the stem cell therapy. So but the for sure show is Pittsburgh, 100% Pittsburgh for sure.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Really, really
exciting.
want to do I really want to do the Arnold, but you got to be smart, man. You can't show up half-assed at these shows because, like, just as we
Yeah.
saw, man, like, even the best, if you're not at your best, you can be beat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been some upsets this year for sure. Like, and it's been it's much tighter. I think with Chris, although it was tight between them, in the end, I think it was not like a crisp, like, oh, everyone was on that. I think some people had it the other way, but it feels like it's opened up now. Does that
I
excite
think
you?
a little bit. I mean, in my personal experience, I already knew that. I mean, I went from second
Sure.
to sixth, ninth to second, so in my personal experience, I already knew that. But I think more people are noticing it now. And it's only going to become more like that as time goes by, because unlike with open, there's a limit to how good you can be unless you meet the person with the perfect muscle bellies, perfect, structure. Then, that's nothing. You can't out diet that guy. You can't out muscle that guy. Maybe this is a little early to say, but maybe like a Keon like this. It's very difficult that for anyone in that, to reach him, even though there is a limit to their weight. But in classic, you're getting guys with crazy structures like every year now popping up, and they're young. They're getting young. I'm like, oh my God, what's the guy that 22? Josema. I mean, like, I think you're gonna get to a point where like a lot of these guys they can only get so good, but then you got all these other guys that are slowly gonna get to that same point, and it's gonna be a mess, dude. It's gonna be like who. It's gonna be a lot of preference at a certain point, personally, in my opinion. Um, I don't know, but I find it super. I find stuff like that super interesting, man. To be honest with you, and I'm excited. It's exciting, a little nerve wracking as well, because again, like in my personal opinion, like I could be completely wrong. Like I like Ramon a lot. I could feel his pain when he went from second to fourth this year, but again, he can prove me wrong next year, but from what I've been seeing this past year, it's like, okay, he's reached his limit and like what he can improve on in classic. And like the only thing that really makes a difference from him show to show now is just peaking. Like I don't think you'll see crazy changes from him. So
Mm,
like, okay, this is the best he'll be. Now you got other guys like Mike improving. You got guys like Wesley improving and whatnot. So I think you might start to see that a lot more from the top guys where they reach that limit and they're like, oh fuck, what can I do?
yeah, it makes so
Yeah.
much sense, like you said. And then even for Ramon, like once it's just a peaking, that's all you're playing with. It's like, do you lose a little bit of joy because you're like, I can't, like, I want to progress here, right? And I've hit my limit, like quite literally, because I could go beyond this, but I'm bound to the rules of the federation and the category. So it's nice for you. I mean, that 17-pound number
Yeah,
is like, that's
yeah.
big. It's tough, but at
It
least
is
it keeps
tough.
your like off seasons interesting, and you can bring about a whole new package potentially. So
Mhm.
that's really cool. Do you feel like, obviously you said earlier, it's like under wraps at the moment, but you're
I
feeling
think
confident about it being different?
I definitely different from the last couple years. I don't know how much different because like just with life, I know like I'm not the most open on YouTube and stuff, but just with life hasn't been the easiest the past two
Sure.
years. So I like from my best when I was placing second to this last Olympia I did where I placed fifth, I was 10 pounds lighter. So I at least know I'm gonna be back to the physique where I was before all the craziness. Um, I'm hoping that it'll be even better than that. But yeah, yeah. I always overplay like my competition and underplay myself, I would say. So I don't know if that's healthy or not. It definitely keeps you on your toes, I would say that much. But
It's good to be
but I would
humble, I
say,
think.
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure.
You need a bit of a healthy ego, but I'm also, I would say I'm more similar to you, where I'm always doubt myself and like second guess and always think like other people are incredible. And then you need people around you who give you props, and you're like, okay, yeah, blow me a bit of smoke, it'll give me a bit of confidence. I need a little bit of ego because that'll help me moving
Yeah,
forward. But I think a lot of, and myself included, for like for a classic physique, like Terrence Ruffin is like, for a lot of people, like pinnacle classic. So I think a lot of people would love to see you back at your best, beating that best, and I think hopefully rewarded by the judges. Because yeah, with Chris kind of out the picture as it were, I do think he kind of made classic his, and now it's like up for debate of, like you said, preference. So it's like, oh, some people like the Wesley look, some people like the Ramon look, some people like the
yeah.
Terrence look. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that.
Dude, I'm excited, man. I'm gonna make it fun. Like I mean, like I do want a little bit of trash talk, like nothing mean, nothing hurtful or anything like that. But I do think a little bit of healthy trash talk this year is gonna be pretty good. Because to be honest with you, when I watched the press conference and Chris said none of these guys believe they can beat him, I was like, yeah, they probably don't, to be quite honest with you. So the trash coming from another athlete, I'm like, yeah, they don't believe it. But now this year coming up where it's just open 100%, like you could talk some trash and it's way more easier to believe, you know what I mean? It's gonna be, I personally think it's gonna be a really exciting year. Like it's gonna be weird with Chris being gone, obviously, but I think it's gonna be probably one of the most exciting years for Classic in a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. I'm excited for you bringing a whole new look and a new package. And I think the time off is what, it's from the sounds of things, it's absolutely what you needed, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's going to propel you forward. I don't know if you've got time. I had just one last thing potentially, was some of your lessons from this year, and I don't. You had three. I don't know if there's one that stands out from it, or if you even remember this post.
I remember
Uh,
the post, but I gotta look back at the lessons. Oh shit.
I
Do you
can
have it?
I have
Okay,
it
okay,
here. So
okay.
the first one was when deciding on opportunities in life, first filter through whatever your ultimate goal is. If it doesn't align with it, don't do it.
Yeah. So in my one thing I've noticed, man, in particular with me is like I've had a ton of opportunities. Like personally, like I've traveled more than pretty much any other bodybuilder out there. I've been to, Korea. I've been all over Asia. I've been to Europe. I've been to South America. I've been to the Middle East. But I've noticed guys like three guys in particular, maybe more off the, but like Sean, Keon, Chris, they don't go many places. They stick in the gym, they stick in the to what they're doing. They were focused. And I noticed like, okay, now after Chris has won a few, then I think he went to India once or twice, or he went to Brazil only after I think he won like 3 Olympics before he made like any real international trips. I was there that one year I placed second, I traveled 30 weekends that
Wow.
year. Way too much, and like I had to stop. Okay. I realized, okay, that's not every opportunity is for you, gonna bring you closer to what you need. And it can actually take you away from reaching that goal. Yeah.
That actually aligns with the second one, which was just because something seems good doesn't mean it's right for you. Kind of aligns a little bit with that. I don't know if you have any other travels, obviously one of those, but or opportunities, I
Yeah.
guess it could be business opportunities for you. It's like actually that might
For,
make me a worse athlete.
yeah, definitely some business stuff, man. There's some business stuff I won't get into, but there's some other like one very easy one I can kind of think of is like um with Flag No Fail, I love those guys, Dane and Rob. But when you saw us do a lot of the content we would do, it would be a lot of active stuff like wakeboarding or like all types of which bodybuilders probably shouldn't be doing. And like on 2 separate occasions of coming up there, I got injured like doing some of the stuff that they had us doing. So you gotta be really careful with some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's even relatable just from like someone listening might be a competitive bodybuilder, but they love playing sport or something. It's like I know that for me, if I go play like a game of football, like I love it, but I know I'm beat up for ages. So I'm like, unless it's a real special occasion or I'm planning to take some time off, this ain't happening because it's not worth it to me. Or if you can be picky about cardio, like don't do running, do some cycling or something. So being smart with your decision making, that makes a ton of sense. And then the last one was don't be afraid to ask for perspective from those closest to you. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but you should give value to those that are closest to you and what they think as well.
Yeah. I've had some friends, they've especially Joe. Joe was the main one telling me to chill out with the traveling. Now I listened to him this year. He called me after Chris made his retirement and he was like, dude, like this could be a very good year for you. He's like, I don't want to tell you what to do, but he's like, maybe not travel so much. Maybe he's like, I don't want to tell you to stop, you're working on your business, but maybe like, keep it where it is, don't try to push it. I was completely in line with everything he said. I was like, yeah. I've had a couple of opportunities already, and I'm like, oh, this will be cool. And I have to remind myself, oh no, don't do that. Like I got invited to, I think it was Thailand or somewhere like that in January for something. I was like, let me no. That sounds would love to go, but not no. So um yeah, I have to that was one thing in particular. And even my other buddy, Daniel's given me some really good advice. Like, hey, Daniel was my video guy for, I believe, 3 years. We lived together for quite a long time. And like, he gave me some advice. And I don't know, I sometimes people will tell you something, but like it doesn't really register. And he only mentioned it once, and I'm like, oh man, I probably should have like maybe my zoned in on that a little bit more. Some people they won't tell you things 2 3 4 times. They'll tell you once, and if you don't listen, they're like, okay, you know.
Yeah. No, I relate to that. I think about it with my partner. She'll tell me something and then someone else will tell me and I'll be like, I tell her that like I'm gonna do this thing. She's like, I told you that ages ago. And like, sometimes it just takes a while to
It
like register
does,
and
yeah.
sink in.
And sometimes like, and the thing is, man, like the people closest to you, a lot of times they'll tell you once, it's like it's in one ear and out the other. But like
Yeah.
say if you heard that same advice from like, I don't know, like Alex Hormozy or Ronnie Coleman or anyone like that, you're like, they say it one time, you're like, oh, okay, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I
see
think
that.
I need to get better at treating the people close, because honestly, they know me better than anyone, you know.
Yeah.
So treat those people with that type of respect, you know, is important.
Yeah, no, I think that's three great lessons and takeaways for people to kind of reflect upon and put into their own lives. And I certainly did when I was reading them. I was like, those are great lessons and takeaways. So, Terence, it's been amazing having you on the show. I know you've got your elbow to go sort out. So hopefully,
Yeah.
fingers crossed, that keeps repairing and getting better. I have high hopes for you next year. And I'm excited to follow along, and I'll make sure all your kind of socials are linked in the description so people can check those out if they're not already following you. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, man. This was fun. You have a good one, man.
Cheers, man.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.